Prince Harry's world is looking less like royal luxury and more like a financial storm. Behind the headlines about his legal fights and media battles, the numbers are starting to add up in ways that should make anyone sweat. Court losses have already stacked him with bills in the millions, and more lawsuits are still running, each one threatening to drain more cash. On top of that, life in California isn't cheap. The Montecito mansion carries a mortgage that runs into the millions, property taxes that climb every single year, and a security bill so heavy it could fund a small business. Without the palace picking up the tab, every cost now lands squarely on Harry's shoulders. The deals with Netflix and Spotify look like a golden ticket, but reports suggest those payouts are shrinking. Add in US tax exposure, delayed filings tied to Archewell, and staff cutbacks. And suddenly, the financial freedom Harry chased is starting to look like a financial squeeze. The story isn't just about a prince under pressure, it's about whether independence comes with a price tag he can actually afford. Prince Harry's biggest financial hit right now comes from his fight with the UK government over security. After stepping back as a working royal, he lost the automatic right to taxpayer-funded police protection. Instead of accepting that change, he launched a long legal campaign demanding the same level of security he once had whenever he visited Britain. The outcome? A massive defeat. The court not only ruled against him, but also left him responsible for the legal costs. Estimates put that bill at around $1.5 million. And that's only the price tag for this single battle. For most people, that number is life-changing.
Sarah, just bring us up to speed, because Harry's involved in about 1,000 legal actions at the moment against the world. What is the thing that happened today, and why is it significant?
Today, a judge decided that...
You are identifying as a woman, are you?
I am indeed. Harry couldn't have a judicial review on his request to pay for his own security when he comes to the UK. So when he was still a member of the royal family, working member of the royal family, he was entitled to 24/7 police protection, paid for by the taxpayer. When he stepped down in 2020, he lost that automatic right. He's got another legal challenge, which is about the decision to remove that automatic right. This in particular was about him wanting to pay for it. He made the offer that he would fund it. The Metropolitan Police said, "We're not guns for hire."
For Harry, it's a reminder that every case he files comes with high risks and even higher expenses. This security fight wasn't just about money, it was about status. By going head-to-head with the UK Home Office, Harry tried to prove that he still deserved the same level of royal treatment as before. But the ruling stripped that argument down and confirmed what many had already said. Stepping away meant losing certain privileges. The financial damage is just the visible fallout of a much bigger message. He's on his own.
He's no longer a working member of the royal family. He's been stripped of all of his royal and military titles. He's no more important in this country than any other visiting VIP. If Tom Cruise or Kim Kardashian comes over, are they expecting to have Home Office, taxpayer-funded Metropolitan Police bodyguards? It would be completely insane.
And even Sadiq Khan, the mayor, got into trouble when it was suggested that he had tried to organise Met Police security for Taylor Swift.
What makes this even harder for Harry is how it intersects with his other ongoing cases. He hasn't just taken on one lawsuit, he's filed several against major UK newspapers, and he's also gone after the government. Each one requires top-tier lawyers, constant legal prep, and travel between California and London. Even when he wins small victories, the costs don't disappear. Legal fees stack up faster than payouts, and damages awarded in media cases don't always cover the money he spends getting there. Financial experts following his situation note that litigation is one of the most expensive hobbies anyone can have, and Harry has turned it into a full-time project. Court filings, appeals, barristers, and global PR teams are all part of the bill. With every headline about another lawsuit, the financial pressure behind the scenes only grows heavier. There's also the fact that Harry has chosen to fight cases that others in his position might settle or walk away from. Going up against the British press in multiple courts means years of drawn-out procedures, endless legal documents, and constant appeals. Even when newspapers offer settlements, Harry's stance has been to keep fighting. That decision adds more years of legal expenses on top of the millions he's already spent. And here's the catch. Every loss hurts twice. First, because of the money directly leaving his account. Second, because each defeat makes it harder to justify the expense of the next case. His team may argue that these lawsuits are about principle, But principals don't pay mortgages, staff salaries, or California tax bills. Each failed appeal forces him to dip further into personal reserves. The security ruling is the clearest example of this cycle. Harry pushed hard, lost big, and ended up footing the bill for both sides. In the world of UK courts, the loser often pays not just their own costs, but also a large chunk of the opponent's. That's how the total spiraled into the seven-figure zone. For someone already juggling a mansion mortgage, American tax exposure, and a charity under scrutiny, dropping another $1.5 million into legal losses is the definition of financial fallout.
How can that possibly be constitutional? To tax some, oh my God.
Yeah.
California, it's even worse than I thought.
Yeah, they've really got you by the
Really,
balls.
that's really upsetting.
Yeah.
So when Prince Harry and Meghan go back to England, they will have to be paying state taxes to California?
If they've lived here over a certain number of years.
Prince Harry is also locked into another legal war that could become even more expensive. This time, it's not against the government. It's against one of the most powerful media empires in the world, Rupert Murdoch's News Group newspapers, the publisher of The Sun. Harry is accusing them of phone hacking and other illegal information gathering, the same kind of scandals that rocked the British press years ago. Now, here's where the risk multiplies. Almost everyone else involved in these cases has quietly settled. Settlements don't mean victory, but they do mean avoiding years of trial costs. Harry has chosen the opposite path. He's pushing forward, no matter how long or how expensive it gets. This approach puts him in a unique but dangerous spot. On principle, standing up to the media looks bold.
I'm Paul Caruana Galizia. I'm a reporter at Tortoise. There's a line that's been missed from Prince Harry's last big interview, where he said he's moving his mission of changing the British media landscape from a personal mission to his life's work. So, in summary, Prince Harry's claims, they are that the tabloids breached his right to privacy. Unlike many other claimants, he seems determined to go to court. If he does succeed in doing that, then starting this summer, we'll see some of the most powerful figures in this country's media appear in court to testify to those allegations.
On a financial level, it's like walking into a marathon with no finish line. Every time his lawyers prepare for a hearing, every day spent in court, every appeal filed, it all racks up fees. The other side has near limitless resources, which means they can drag the case out for years, forcing Harry to either keep paying or give in later. Legal analysts have already flagged how risky this is. If the court rules against him, the financial hit could make the $1.5 million security loss look small. Not only would he cover his own costs, but he could also be ordered to pay a portion of News Group's costs, which are likely to be enormous given the scale of the case. And unlike a one-off fine or tax bill, these costs don't come with a set cap. They grow with every motion, every witness, and every day the case continues. Even if Harry wins, the payout isn't guaranteed to outweigh what he's spending. Damages in hacking cases can be significant, but they rarely reach the kind of numbers that replace millions in legal bills. And if he wins only part of his claim, the court could still order him to cover some of the costs. That's the brutal math of high-risk litigation. You can fight for years, win in headlines, and still lose financially. What makes this even heavier is how it ties into his overall financial picture. Harry doesn't have the palace treasury behind him anymore. His personal income streams, like the Netflix deal and his book advance, aren't designed to fuel endless legal battles. Netflix has already scaled back. Spotify ended early, and there's no guarantee future projects will hit the same payday. That means every dollar going into lawsuits is a dollar not going into securing his family's lifestyle, covering taxes, or strengthening Archewell's operations.
I mean, my goodness, it's had so much attention, so much hype, but that didn't really reflect in the viewing figures. It failed to make even the top 350 programs. But let's be frank, that's very unimpressive. But even more
well, when you factor in her reach and how much attention it had, it's surprising.
It's definitely surprising.
Yeah.
But then even more unimpressive was Prince Harry's programme. They said to him, look, you've got the money, you make a sort of programme you want to make. So he made a programme about polo. And I remember watching it myself. Well, apparently it only gained, the whole series gained a total of 500,000 views, Well, to put that in perspective, you know, each episode of Palace Confidential sometimes gets 500,000.
Yeah,
So
where's our Netflix deal, Ted? Come on.
yeah, I mean, definitely we should ask for a sort of pay rise.
There's also the psychological weight of knowing each new case could be another financial sinkhole. Harry has positioned himself as the royal who will not back down, but that image comes at a steep cost. The public might see headlines about Harry versus the press, but behind those headlines are invoices, hourly rates, and constant demands for payment. This is not the only problem he is facing, apparently. Prince Harry's next big challenge isn't in a courtroom at all. It's with the taxman. Since moving to California, Harry has stepped into one of the most complex tax systems in the world. The US doesn't just tax what you earn on American soil, it taxes global income. That means every dollar he makes from book deals, speaking gigs, media projects, or legal settlements anywhere on the planet could be subject to US rules. At first glance, that might not sound like a huge problem for someone with his profile. After all, Meghan and Harry signed eye-catching contracts with Netflix and Spotify, and Harry brought in millions from his memoir. But the reality is different when you dig into the way the US Internal Revenue Service works. Those payments aren't just taxed at a flat rate, they're taxed progressively, which means the bigger the payday, the higher the percentage the IRS takes. Add California state tax on top, one of the highest in America, and suddenly the money that looks huge on paper shrinks dramatically once the government takes its share. Where things get even trickier is with income that doesn't neatly fit into one box. Legal damages, for example, are taxed differently depending on how the court categorizes them. If Harry wins money from a newspaper lawsuit, the UK might not tax it, but the US could. That means a settlement or damages payout he might have considered free money could instead open the door to another round of bills. With multiple cases still in play, he's walking a fine line between potential windfalls and unexpected IRS headaches. Then there's his inheritance. Reports claimed Harry inherited around $8.5 million from Princess Diana's estate, and that it avoided certain taxes in the UK. But once he became a US resident, that inheritance became part of his financial profile in a much more complicated way.
Obviously, when Harry left, he tried to make out that he'd been cut off penniless, which none of us believed at the time. And of course, when the royal accounts came out that year, it was quite clear within the then Duchy of Cornwall accounts, which was the then King Charles's, then Prince of Wales's pot of money, it was quite clear that he'd been paying or covering their upkeep to the tune of several £million a year. Now that did stop because he said, I want to go and, you know, carve my own way. So he obviously hasn't got that safety blanket of daddy's money to come back to unless Charles was so kind as to give it to him.
Tax planners in America often highlight that wealthy expats can run into double taxation traps if they don't structure their assets carefully. If Harry didn't have a long-term tax strategy in place before relocating, he could be dealing with overlaps, filings, and exposure that eat into that inheritance over time. And let's not forget the basics. Just living in Montecito carries enormous costs. Property taxes alone on a nearly $15 million mansion can reach close to $300,000 a year, every year. Those aren't optional, and they come on top of his mortgage payments and insurance. U.S. tax law doesn't let those costs vanish. They stack alongside federal obligations and California's extra layer. For someone trying to reinvent themselves outside the royal system, it creates a constant cycle. Earn money fast enough to stay ahead of the taxman, while also covering all the private bills that used to be taken care of by the palace. Archewell, the foundation he runs with Meghan, adds another layer of pressure. Nonprofits in the US have strict filing deadlines, and even one late form can trigger penalties or red flags with regulators. Their foundation already received a delinquency notice for a missed filing, which was later resolved, but it sent a clear message. Even their charity arm isn't immune to the complications of US tax law. Maintaining compliance takes accountants, legal oversight, and careful paperwork, more costs on top of an already strained financial picture. The UK system has its own rules around estate taxes and inheritance. Because Diana's estate was carefully managed, Harry benefited from strategies that allowed much of that wealth to reach him without being eaten up by tax. That advantage worked well while he was based in Britain, but moving to the United States changes the frame entirely. The US doesn't care that the inheritance came through tax-efficient planning in another country. It only cares that Harry, as a resident, now has assets and potential income streams to declare. This raises the question of whether Harry's inheritance really offers the financial stability many assume it does. In America, inherited wealth doesn't automatically sit untouched. If those funds are invested, the gains they generate are taxable. Interest, dividends, and capital gains all trigger obligations with the IRS. So, while the lump sum may have crossed over tax-free initially, the ongoing reality is that the money has to be managed in a way that accounts for American taxation. If Harry doesn't have the right structures in place, that supposed cushion could shrink faster than expected. There's also the illusion of security in the size of the figure itself. $8.5 million sounds like a fortune, but in the world of luxury California living, it can evaporate at surprising speed. Combine the cost of a multi-million-dollar mansion, property taxes close to $300,000 annually, security bills of around $2 million per year, and a lifestyle built on private travel and staff, and the inheritance starts looking less like an unshakable foundation and more like a temporary boost. Without steady replenishment, even a sum that large can run down over a decade. Inheritance also ties Harry to another financial concept that often gets overlooked: transparency. In the UK, his financial details could be kept relatively private. In the US, tax filings require clear declarations. That means accountants, auditors, and possibly even regulators now have greater insight into how those inherited funds are handled. Privacy, once guaranteed by royal privilege, becomes another area where Harry faces exposure. Prince Harry and Meghan Markle once presented Archewell as the cornerstone of their post-royal identity. It was supposed to be the vehicle for their philanthropic projects, their way of showing the world that stepping away from the palace wasn't about escaping responsibility, but about creating something modern, independent, and impactful. But in the financial reality of the United States, running a foundation isn't just about mission statements and glossy PR, it's about strict compliance, relentless deadlines, and an unforgiving tax system. And that's where Archewell has already stumbled. Earlier this year, California regulators issued a delinquency notice to Archewell after the charity failed to file paperwork on time. The issue was quickly resolved, but the headline sent a message. Even small administrative slips can turn into public embarrassments when you're under constant media scrutiny. For most nonprofits, a late filing might go unnoticed. For Archewell, it became another chapter in the growing narrative of financial missteps. Running a nonprofit in the US isn't cheap or simple. Archewell has to maintain accountants, lawyers, compliance officers, and staff just to keep the organization in good standing. Every dollar raised needs to be tracked, documented, and reported with precision. Unlike the palace, where funding flowed with limited public oversight, Archewell's records are open to inspection. Annual tax returns for charities, known as Form 990s, are public documents. That means journalists, critics, and watchdog groups can dissect where every donation goes, how much is spent on salaries, and how efficiently the charity uses its resources. Transparency, once optional, is now mandatory.
It really has been a bit of a tsunami of people leaving. He was the manager, production manager, the head honcho in many ways. Last year, they lost their head of content, also the marketing director. And as you say, this is part of a long list of people who have left the employment of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex over the last few years. You'll remember probably that when they were carrying out their royal work over here, there were allegations, unproven, that she had bullied some of the staff. But there were a lot of stories coming out of the palaces that staff were unhappy with the way she treated them. I don't know whether they're true or not. I mean, she and Harry have sought to deny it. But I've met one or two people who have had direct experience of working with her in various capacities. And
Prince Harry and Meghan's home in Montecito was meant to symbolize their fresh start. Nearly 15,000 square feet. Lush gardens, a private pool, and space for their children to grow up far from the rigid structures of palace life. But beneath the surface, their California lifestyle comes with bills that even Hollywood elites grumble about. The mortgage on a $14–15 million mansion is hefty, but that's only the beginning. Property taxes in Santa Barbara County add close to $300,000 annually, a cost that returns every year no matter how much income is coming in. Add to that utilities, staff, maintenance, and insurance, and simply keeping the lights on is a multi-million-dollar exercise. Not long ago, the couple quietly cut staff, reportedly up to 25 positions, an early signal that their household budget was tightening. Downsizing is common for celebrities facing cash pressure. For the Sussexes, it marks a shift from the image of endless Netflix millions to one of careful cost management. The Netflix deal itself has become part of the squeeze. Originally announced at up to $100 million, reports now suggest the real payouts are closer to $20 million.
I was one of the Netflix bosses, and I can assure you some of them will be absolutely fuming at the fact that Harry is not in that, because that is what they paid the $100 million for. That's what they wanted, brand Harry and Meghan. They didn't just pay for Meghan, you know, actress off Suits, married well. They want Harry included in it, and he wasn't. So I think that it's a very, very bad move, and if she wants to get renewed for that third season, this isn't a good start.
Combine that with the collapse of their Spotify deal, and the reliable cash flow they were banking on has thinned. The couple still has opportunities: book royalties, speaking events, potential new deals, but nothing on the horizon seems certain enough to match the ongoing cost of their lifestyle. One of the biggest drains on Harry's finances is security. Back in Britain, royal protection was automatic and taxpayer-funded. In California, everything is private and expensive. Estimates place their U.S. security bill at around $2 million per year. That covers guards, vehicles, surveillance systems, and emergency logistics. For comparison, that's more than the annual operating budget of many small charities. The cost is non-negotiable. Harry has made it clear that he sees security as a non-negotiable priority for his family. The lawsuits against British tabloids form another financial sinkhole. Harry has multiple cases on the go, including high-profile claims of phone hacking and libel. He has won symbolic victories, including damages from Mirror Group, but the financial results have been underwhelming compared to the costs of litigation. For example, while he received some damages in his hacking case, he was ordered to cover a significant portion of the legal costs, leaving him with a net loss. The Mail on Sunday case over a private letter to Meghan's father produced headlines but also drained money. His most ambitious battle against Rupert Murdoch's news group is ongoing and may become the most expensive of them all. The issue isn't just the cash spent, it's the endless nature of these cases. Legal costs pile up year after year, with no guarantee of a payout that exceeds the spending. Harry is playing a long game, aiming to reshape how the press treats public figures, but financially, it's bleeding him dry. Now, if you compare it with others, most celebrities and royals settle quickly to minimize exposure. Harry's refusal to settle keeps him in courtrooms, but also keeps his wallet open. At the core of Harry's financial problems is the loss of institutional support. As a working royal, he benefited from taxpayer-funded security, travel covered by the crown, and the prestige of royal patronages. Stepping back stripped all of that away. Independence may have brought freedom, but it also transferred every cost onto his shoulders. That means every lawyer's bill, every bodyguard's paycheck, every flight, and every household expense must now come from his personal income. For the first time in his life, Harry is fully responsible for sustaining his lifestyle without the invisible safety net of the monarchy. The looming question is whether Harry is genuinely on the brink of ruin or simply adjusting to a new financial reality. On one hand, the evidence points to strain: downsizing staff, shrinking media deals, mounting legal losses, and relentless security bills. The combination paints a picture of a fortune being whittled down by obligations that don't stop. On the other hand, Harry isn't penniless. He still has his inheritance, potential book royalties, the possibility of new media contracts, and his brand value as a global figure. He and Meghan could choose to lean into more commercial opportunities, from production deals to public speaking. In theory, they could stabilize their finances if they secure consistent income streams.
Who represents a family, a country, and a commonwealth. Your individual brand and personality must always come second to the brand and reputation of the firm. And without doubt, the least egregious of all, compared to those other solemn duties. You must observe accepted royal protocol around how you dress and present yourself to the world. Any person who comes into the royal family believing they can have all the benefits and not pay the tax, or they simply haven't understood the contract of the crown. Meghan said she didn't Google Harry before they met. Frankly, I wish she had.
The risk lies in timing. Legal costs and security bills are fixed, heavy, and constant. Media contracts, meanwhile, are uncertain and often delayed. If income slows while costs remain high, the gap widens quickly. For a family living at the level of Montecito luxury, even multi-million-dollar reserves can drain in less than a decade. Now, while much attention focuses on Harry's legal and financial battles, Meghan's career has also hit turbulence. Since stepping back from royal duties, she was expected to build an independent professional identity alongside Harry media projects, public speaking, and partnerships were all part of the plan. But ongoing scandals, courtroom dramas, and relentless media coverage have made that path far more complicated. Netflix and other media opportunities were initially meant to generate steady, high-profile income. But reports indicate that some projects have been delayed, canceled, or scaled back, partly due to negative publicity and partly because production companies are cautious about attaching themselves to constant controversy. Meghan's brand, once associated with glamour and influence, now carries risk. Companies hesitate to invest in high-cost projects that could attract more scrutiny than return.
A very brutal article in the Hollywood Reporter this week. It was a brutal takedown of Harry and Meghan. It claimed to have quotes from members of their staff. I'll read just to start. I'll read some of it. They have a staff member who says everyone's terrified of Meghan. She belittles people, she doesn't take advice. They're both poor decision makers. They change their minds frequently. Harry is a very, very charming person, but he's very much an enabler and she's just terrible.
Even endorsements or partnerships that might normally pay handsomely are harder to secure. The combined effect is a shrinking pipeline of opportunities, which means fewer incoming funds to balance the couple's growing expenses. Between mortgage payments, security bills, legal fees, and the costs of running Archewell, every dollar counts, and Meghan's stalled work contributes directly to tightening the financial squeeze. Public perception for both of them also matters. Every financial stumble, whether a late filing from Archewell, a courtroom loss, or a canceled deal, feeds into a narrative that the couple is struggling. That narrative makes it harder to negotiate lucrative new contracts, creating a cycle that worsens their situation. So, is Harry broke? Not yet, but the direction of travel raises serious questions. Without the palace's backing, he's essentially running his own private corporation, covering overhead, managing staff, paying for security, and fighting global legal battles. Few individuals, even wealthy ones, can sustain that structure long-term without institutional support. Outro. That's it for today's video. Prince Harry and Meghan's post-royal life is far from the fairy tale most people imagine. May have seemed glamorous, but the reality is a constant balancing act between protecting the family and staying afloat financially. But what do you think? The palace going to help them? Or will Prince William not give a dime to Harry? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss the royal drama.